That's right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our regular little meeting seminar soiree. This week we had a late cancellation on our intended presenter, but luckily one of our highly esteemed members, Richard Mason, has stepped up to the plate with a special treat for us. A hands-on show and tell, bright new shiny piece of machinery, which we'll get to in a minute. But first off, yeah, just a welcome to everyone and welcome to all those in interweb land. I'd just like to tell everyone about Saturday week, that's Saturday the 5th of July. We'll be having a around the garages where we have a chance to be able to go to Geelong and see a failing car industry. No, to see a lovely little workshop with a conversion that's occurring at the moment. And Felix, do you know which car's been happening at the moment?
No, I don't know at the moment. No. Sorry.
So there'll be a conversion in progress that will be happening at the Geelong workshop, and if you would like to attend,
Suzuki Mighty Boy.
Oh, Suzuki Mighty Boy.
And also a BMW.
And a Beamer.
There's a couple of them they're working on.
Wow. All right. So something for those budget-minded and some of those that like the European bling. So very nice. Very nice indeed. So yeah, there'll be a chance there to be able to go see a conversion or conversions, plural, in operation, and who knows, if you're good boys and girls, you might even be able to get to pick up a spanner, but you might not be able to put it onto anything. Yep, and so if you do want to attend that, then the person to contact is Felix Goodyear, and you can. Do you mind if I put out your number on interweb land? Okay, so for those that would like to go, please RSVP beforehand so that we can carpool and so that we can confirm how many people are going. It isn't an open invitation. You do need to RSVP. Okay, that's most important. So Felix's number is 0417 818 987. That's 0417 818 987. And contact him before Saturday the 5th of July and put your name down for attending, and we can also see if we can organise a lift from the station if you are coming by public transport. A little bit of other housekeeping is that soon there's going to be a change in our email address as we transition to a bright, shiny, spangly new e-newsletter, courtesy of highly esteemed Secretary Adrian Cohen and the technology of MailChimp. So watch this space on that. So just watch your spam filters in the coming months. If you are not receiving our regular emails, then that might be the reason. Some other things. Any other upcoming events that anyone knows about? Does anyone have any news about any upcoming events besides the around the garages? I'm not getting too much response, so I take it that's a no. And is there any past events that I have missed and someone would like to tell me and the interweb land about? No, it's yeah, it's a bit wet for electrics these days, isn't it? So that's all good. The other thing is that I'm interested in some feedback on where people get some of their news and information about EVs. I've been told about a site that people might be interested in. It's called chargedevs.com. That's chargedevs.com. If you subscribe to them, then they'll send you regular updates daily if you don't watch out about upcoming news, and they say that EVs are here, try and keep up. So that's we try not just to keep up, but actually to stay one step ahead, hopefully. Well, some of us do. Sometimes I feel like I'm half a step behind. So if anyone's got any websites or other places that they get their EV information from, then please give me that information, and we'll make it available on our Facebook page, so that we can spread the information about new and good things that are coming in the EV world. Now, what other things have we got? I think that's probably it now. Oh, yes. Oh, that's right. And we've got a plea from another part of the ATA on getting some more interest in the ATA and its affiliated groups. So you want to come up and...
Yeah, hi, I'm Chris Moss, Secretary of the Melbourne branch. We're a bit short of committee members and people to plan more events. In fact, we've probably only got one more event planned this year. So if anyone's interested in coming along and help us plan events, please come and see me, or give us your name afterwards. And thanks for that.
Can you tell us a bit more about the Melbourne branch, where you are?
Yeah, give us a little bit of an overview of what the Melbourne branch does. And
yeah, the Melbourne branch meets here on the second Wednesday of the month. We're doing third Wednesday of the month. Yeah, there's another thing on the second. Third Wednesday of the month. We've been doing bi-monthly, but we haven't got anything for July at the moment. We do the mainstream sort of stuff like renewable energy or energy consumption, any of the mainstream sort of ADA topics when we can find someone to talk. The last one was on straw bale housing, and previously electricity, the changes in the electricity groups and things like that. So it's quite a good meeting. We tend to get quite a good roll-up. But one of our members is down the coast, South Gippsland. He's very involved in coal seam gas. The other one's abroad. And so at the moment we're a bit light on. So if anyone's interested in just organising 1 or 2 meetings a year, that'd be great. If anyone's got a great topic, I'd be very happy to hear about it. So that's for me. Thanks.
oh, thanks very much. Yeah, well, yeah. For those in Webb's land, you know, EVs are just one part of sustainability, and the ATA look at a broad range of topics from house design through to all other aspects of green technology and sustainability. So if you're interested in that beyond electric vehicles, then do make contact with the ATA and especially the Melbourne branch. You can do that through the ata.org.au website. As one point of contact for all those in Webb's land. And you know, let's forward the movement together by putting our collective energies together and spreading good word about how we can make the world a better place. Now, for our topic this evening, usually we talk maybe in sometimes in a little bit of an abstract nature about things, but this time we've got Richard Mason, who has put his money where his mouth is and has purchased the new Mitsubishi Outlander, the plug-in electric vehicle, and we'll hear about his experiences with it, and hopefully later, who knows, we might even be able to kick the tyres. If Richard might come up, and we'll give Richard a warm welcome. And, there you go.
Probably not. Okay, we'll just have to deal with it as it is. Okay, I'd like to welcome you all here tonight. I'll give you a rundown on some things I know about Mitsubishi hybrid vehicles. As part of the hybrid family, you've got PHEVs, which are not available here, but in America you can buy a hybrid vehicle plug-in, which is in your Prius and Honda category. So it's a hybrid vehicle first and electric second. So it tends to use the extra electricity to run in electric mode, but still tends to be more of a hybrid. Then you've got the plug-in hybrid electric vehicle, which is Mitsubishi, and I gather a Volvo is available and some other vehicles where it's an electric vehicle first and then a hybrid vehicle second. So it tends to keep reverting to electricity and try and use as much of the plug-in power as it can. And then you've got range extended electric vehicles, which are the type of vehicle where there's a small motor that drives a generator that goes to the batteries that then drives the vehicle. So it remains as an electric vehicle totally, but with a generator driving, a motor driving the generator, which then drives the car via the battery pack. And then of course you've got straight electric that you plug in and charge her up and off you go. A quick rundown, we're not going to see this very well, but I'll do this bit, which would have been last, but it's more going to be first. A bit of a rundown on the drivetrain as to how it works. You have, after you've plugged it in, you have your electric vehicle mode, which gives you up to about 120 k an hour on electricity only. Will tow a 2-ton trailer in electric mode over 100 k's an hour. If you keep the power meter, they have a power meter in them, which if you keep that up below half, it will stay in electric mode right through to quite high speed. Your range under those circumstances, somewhere between 20 and 25 k's out of 10 kilowatt hours, which translates to about half a kilowatt hour per kilometre. That's at absolute worst, depending on the weight, how fast, and those things. And as low as 200 watts per hours per kilometre if you get down to the vehicle by itself. This gives you a bit of a rundown on their price and such like and what things they have. Yeah, 50,000 drive away to about 55, so current price with all the taxes and everything like that. Airbags, all those sorts of things. The main claim to fame compared to most vehicles is it has 2 electric motors which drive both lots of wheels in electric mode, and its towing capacity. There's no other vehicle that you can buy plug-in apart from the Volvo that's not quite as electric as this that will tow a reasonable weight. I think the only thing in Australia is a Camry will tow 300 kgs, which is not going to get you real far. This gives you a bit of a schematic of how things are arranged. Drive batteries fit between the rails, chassis rails in the car. Inverter sits in behind the back seat. The rear motor in single drive, it's just a unit drive, back axle, independent. In the front, you have motor, generator, well, like a transmission with a generator and a front motor, and the inverter sits up on top in the engine bay, which we'll go at later and have a look at. So you'll be able to check that out. This gives you a look at the dash and tells you what's going on your, could be your left, your left is a power meter. So if you can keep that from vertical to the left, you'll be running an electric mode if you've got battery. And below is your deacceleration or regen. You have in the middle, have various settings up the top which will give you trip meters, how much EV range, etc. The one on the left at the bottom is your battery indicator, fuel tank on the right. If you're in drive, normally you have 5 regen settings. If it's in normal, it'll just show drive. If you switch it from, you can go 0, no regen, up to 5, and that'll show up where the B is on the indicator there, and the other one's a speedo, which is fairly straightforward. pretty much covers what we've covered there. That's part of the, which I don't really look at too much, but it gives you a rundown. If you want to, you can feed how much power you've got each time. This is off the higher spec model than mine, so you can set it to charge at particular times a day. So if you've got, you know, cheap power at 3 AM till 6 or something like that, you can use it. But I don't have that one on my particular one. I just use a pool pump timer at this stage and connect it to 11:30. Switches on, about 5 hours to charge 10 kilowatts, which costs about $2. It still adds up at the end of the month. 30 by $2.
Can you survive with it?
What's that?
Can you do racing driving with it?
I do 100. I've averaged 100 k's a day since I've had it. So, and towing, the range is 20 to something past 25. I used to tow a 12 by 6 tandem, which is full legal width, and anything up to, we won't mention quite how much, but 1.5 tons up to a 12% grade is what they're rated for. Does that without any.
So you can say
What
that's
are you getting the 100k today?
I'll go to the. I've got the overall fuel consumptions and things, so I'll go through that down the track. Anything else there that's of note? Got 12 kilowatt hour battery pack. It uses 10 of them. Your charging is 10 plus or minus a little bit, depending on how much you have it held in reserve, which I'll explain a little bit more in the modes in a minute. I think that's about it. Can we get that slide back that's got the transmission?
yes.
Because I'll go into that in the modes. Beautiful. Yep, that's it. That's it. It's a bit bigger. Not too bad, as good as it doesn't get over a little bit. It's just a part when we use it as it is. Might really be small, might be okay. Yeah, that'll be good. Into it, and you'll go up the hill with electricity and the motor running in direct drive, and then as you go over the top, if it's reasonably down, the motor will actually cut out, normal hybrid type situation, or electric motor switches off, dribble some more power into it, up to about 3 k's worth by the gauge when you're driving on it. So In highway mode, it's basically it runs in front wheel drive and uses the electricity to drive the motors, back motor, I'm assuming. It may drive the front motor, you've got no way of knowing whether it adds to the front or whether it just adds electricity to the back. By the schematic, it looks like it feeds to the back, so we're assuming that it does, and maybe at higher load. The next step in loading is it drops out of direct drive if you put your foot down hard enough, and it goes into full generator mode. So the engine goes to 5,000 RPM, electricity drives both motors, and that's your full horsepower. In battery mode, normally driving along, if you want to accelerate hard, you put your foot down hard, you end up with a bit of a delay, and it'll go, do you want to go this fast? Yes, you do. Right, then the motor will start, it'll go to full RPM, and you'll have the electric motors plus battery plus the engine at full speed. So it turns into a V6 then, and performance is quite high if you've got enough battery pack. If not, it'll go to about 3/4 sort of acceleration, which is still any amount. It's more as good as a 2.5 litre engine instead of the 2 litre engine that it's fitted with on that front. In the transmission, motors on that side, that's the park. The electric motor fits there, so it's all the time driving down to the diff, which is there. Your direct drives in the bottom, and your generators on the front, which is obvious. So both of those are spinning around all the time. So that's how they manage to make all the modes switch together. You have the option of charging the batteries while you're driving. You can have charge mode, which I've found on the highway does take quite a long time. Usually I've got a load on, so I don't know what it charges like empty because I've never done it, but I've had a bit of a try on the open road, and because you're already using a fair bit of horsepower, it does take more than likely 40, 50 minutes, maybe an hour to bring it back up to 80%. I tried in the city today, because today was the first day where I had a little bit of spare time, and it charges fairly quickly in the city. The motor goes up to about 1,500, 2,000 RPM. You drive along, and obviously every time you lift your foot or anything like that, it's pumping a fair bit of power into the battery and brings it up fairly quickly. I don't know how long it'll take to go from up to your 80%. It doesn't charge it fully, leaves 20% headway for regenerative braking and those sorts of things.
So when the motor's in direct drive, is it like a fixed ratio, or is it?
Yes, it's a fixed ratio.
So
it's like just having.
Speed up for a normal manual car.
Yeah, it just feels like you can't hear the motor actually in the normal operation in that mode. But yeah, it's just like you had fifth gear only.
So when you hear the motor rev up, it's obviously like.
Yeah, in generator mode, yes. Yeah, and there's sort of two modes of that. There's normal generator mode where it just goes 1,200 to maybe a couple of thousand, and then there's a distinct jump if it says, oh, I really need more power. It jumps up to full torque and full revs. It'd tend to be doing that all the time, pretty much. Fuel consumption wise, electricity I've covered, but I'll go through a little bit again. The recommended supposed range is 50 k's. I think you'd have to be in eco mode, driving around the city very, very gently, and you more than likely could get 50 k's if you're just on a nice little 40, 50 k an hour, gently, not too much stopping and starting, it might get there. You can get, I have tried it around locally around Wangaratta, and round town it uses less electricity than the highway. You can get 45 around that if you just keep the acceleration down. That's the main trick, because you've got nearly 2 tonne. You just gently accelerate. Don't worry so much about stopping, because the regen kicks in there. You can get up into the 40 something. If you get to that 43, that's the equivalent of about 100 miles a gallon on cost. Towing, 25, bit more, bit less, depending on the weight. I've normally got 1.5 tonne and a bit. The tandem trailer weighs 650 kgs. And of course the other thing is wind resistance, so how fast you go. On the highway, vehicle only, about 35 k's if you're gentle. You might get 30 if you put foot in it, because the wind resistance. Once you get past, I've tried it, you can watch the power meter, about 75 k an hour it starts climbing. When you get to 100, it's starting to get up there. 110, it's well up there. So it does make a difference. Just fuel consumption wise, my wife drove Melbourne and back, discounting the electricity, 40 miles to the gallon, which is about, I think it's 7 k's to the litre, 7 litres per 100. The total average for the time I've had it is 7 litres 100, including the cost of electricity. Towing on petrol, at worst 25 mile to the gallon, which is about 11, but that's only, you don't average that over the time. That's sort of the worst scenario. Best, well, getting you into sort of 8 litres 100 area. So you can pretty much usually get around 10 litres 100 towing if you 90, 95, and you know, you don't put foot down hard.
Richard,
Yes.
first off, I want to thank you.
Yep.
You gave a mention that you bought this car about 3 months ago here.
2 months ago, yeah.
I was here. Since then, I've gone out and bought one myself. I'm proud owner. I had my 15k service, 1500k service today. My questions, so I can ask some, answer some questions if it's appropriate. But sure.
Yeah, no, you're right. Go for it.
On towing, you use towing.
Yes.
I don't.
Yeah.
Do you think it's better as a tower than, say, a standard diesel or petrol car?
If you did only highway use and you wanted to drive at 110 with a heavy load, I think a diesel more than likely would be superior. But if you did more local type work, now shorter distances, the distance is the thing. Because you've got, say, 25k or 20k electrical range, the main thing that's going to help your running cost is if you're only driving 30 k's every day. But if you're going to drive 130 k's every day, a diesel's maybe going to be a better option. But most people, so, and it's up to your preference too. The other thing is, how are you charging it? So I'm currently charging it off-peak. I do plan to put in a standalone electricity system, which will obviously...
What do you mean by that? You mean the 15 amp one or the, or the charging point?
No, an actual complete solar panels, battery pack, off-grid inverter, and yeah, plug it in anytime, day or night, and a big enough battery pack to be able to charge the vehicle in one go. So about I think it's 16 kilowatt hour battery pack. I've already got batteries, so that helps.
Currently, you're just charging up a 10 amp socket.
They rate it as 15. I think that's to cover the situation of people with 8 amp power. So they give you the actual charging adapter with the car has a 15 amp plug on it.
Yes,
the actual adapter on the car charges at 10 amps. It's limited to 10 amps.
So you have to install a special 15 amp socket in your house then?
I think every owner I've ever spoken to has a nice little extension cord with 15 amps on one side, and if you can run a 2,500 watt radiator, and you know you've got more than 10 amps available from the power point, it's no problem. I've measured it with a power meter to see A, what current draw, and B, to see how much it takes electricity wise, which is 10, and when it's empty, 10 amp hours plus 10 kilowatt hours plus or minus a little, depending on how much it might have saved up. Questions?
So have you actually use it with the heater on it?
Yes, I can talk about heaters and air conditioners. Heating wise, when it's below 10 degrees, when you drive out in the morning, the motor will quite often start, run for a minute, just in case the option on that is, so if you do want full acceleration, you will end up with the motor's not dead cold. When it's cold, which it has been the last few days, if it's below 10 and even a bit worse below 10, the motor will run. You'll have some heating, but it'll sense the fact that you don't have enough heating, and then the motor will run.
But the heating runs off the water from the motor.
Yes, but there is also some other form of heating as well, but it's only a percentage of it. Now, whether it's the air conditioning running in reverse cycle mode or whether they just have a heating element, I don't know.
So it's going to happen in the summer when you have the air conditioner on.
Your electrical range will drop. The air conditioning is electrically driven, so it's driven off the battery pack. It's on the side of the motor, but yeah, it's got no belt or anything like that. It's just straight electric.
No heated seats.
No, the upmarket one may have, but not the standard one.
The higher end does heated seats.
Right, I heard that was one of the things.
Yeah. So if you get a sunroof and leather. Yeah.
You can see.
Yeah.
And if you try and
I find actually that it's a fairly well insulated vehicle, and most of the time I don't actually switch the heat on.
make it a panel all the time.
5 years and 100,000 from Mitsubishi. Most people from Holland and that seem to think that 8 years should be quite possible.
That's not it.
I can smile, yes.
That's not. Oh, maybe not.
Just on the transmission, so
Yeah.
you've got a diff in the
The diff's in the normal place, like a normal, say, front-wheel drive transmission, and above that is the electric motor that drives down, and then to the front of that is the generator that's driven as well. So both of those, as far as I can work out, are permanently driven. And then below that, you have a shaft with a hydraulic clutch that will engage a single drive ratio, which is like just having fifth gear only. And that's what it selects when you're over about 80 k's in speed. So most of the time when you drive down the freeway, unless you're trying to do 110 up a steep hill, it will stay in that direct drive, even under quite heavy loads.
and it's four-wheel drive. So
Yeah, it's in two-wheel drive then.
Yeah, so you can go with that.
If you do have a Diff Lock button, which when you're in electric mode, you can notice it actually just electrically connects the two motors together so they're running at the same speed. So if you drive along the road in electric mode and hit the Diff Lock, you can actually feel everything flatten out a little bit and you get a little bit of wind up. When you're in direct drive, I tried it the other day, you put it in Diff Lock, it actually just keeps rolling along because the motor's driving the front wheels and the back wheels are being driven by the electric motor then. And that your little graph shows everything going happily round and driving everything, but it doesn't feel like to get the wind up situation there. Whether the front motor's doing something or not, I don't know, but it doesn't feel like it winds up. So I assume at high speed.
Back up is just like a standard shaft, it's got a tail shaft.
No tail shaft. It's just got an electric. The back has just got an electric motor,
Okay.
and it runs in conjunction with the front electric motor. Your battery pack fits between the chassis rails where your drive shaft would fit.
Is this sort of like a master slave arrangement? Or,
No, they both run together. Yeah. And as I say, when you're in direct drive mode, I don't know whether only the back motor runs if you put in Diff Lock, or whether they both do. But it feels like only the back one because you don't get the wind-up sensation you get when you're in electric.
So when you say wind-up sensation, what do you reckon?
Well, if you've got a normal four-wheel drive that's driving the back wheels, and you're driving down the road, and you put it in four-wheel drive, because the wheels aren't identical in diameter, you get you get a loading effect. So you can watch the power meter, when you select it, it goes up, and you can feel everything just work a bit harder. You can feel the steering load up a bit.
Yeah, typically in a straight line can't move too much.
Yeah. So in some four-wheel drives,
When you try and get out the four-wheel drive, you might come out.
oh well, in electric, of course, all it's doing is it's taking the speed sensor of both motors and connecting those together and feeding power to each one to equalise the load. I've tried it out in the paddock, works pretty well. Gets quite good traction, very good actually. Any more questions? Yes.
If you don't have your trailer on,
Yeah.
going down flat highway, no wind at 100 k's an hour, electric only.
Yeah.
Does it tell you how much power? Is that using 15 kilowatts or 12?
It only you'll show on the power meter, so you'd usually be just in the top edge of economy. We've actually got somewhere there. We should have. Yeah, there we go. It'll get where it says eco at about 100 k's an hour. It'll be just on the edge of eco in average conditions.
Right.
If you keep it anywhere in that green zone, it'll be electric. We'll even go to about another 25% without kicking the motor in. And then if you want to go faster, well, when it does. But there is a bit of a delay, which is a little bit disconcerting sometimes when you overtake something and suddenly discover with a trailer that you're doing 140 instead of a little less. Because as the motor kicks in and everything just keeps kicking in, the acceleration just keeps climbing to a degree. So it's a different sensation to a petrol. So it's hard to judge how much extra power you ended up with till you look at the speedo.
So what's it like just as a driver overall?
Uh,
You like it?
yeah, I like it. Well, it's like driving an auto without the disadvantages of an auto. No gear changes. It's very seamless to drive. We'll go out, look, and then we'll do a couple laps around the block. Whoever wants to check. Obviously, we can't show you direct drive mode because it's not an 80k zone out there. But otherwise, we can. I'll just have a quick look through anything else. Usually, I use battery save quite a lot. So when I come to Melbourne, I'll drive out the front gate. It'll already drive it. It always drops back into electric vehicle mode when you go slow. So even if you've got no battery, when I turn into the driveway and drive a couple hundred metres up, it goes in electric mode. So, and the same in the city. You take off from the lights, I'll take off from electric unless you've used up the battery a little bit. It'll take off from electric, you'll get to 40 k's or something like that, the motor will fire up. So you put it in a battery save mode, drive to the city. If you're above 60, 70 k an hour, I just leave it in battery save mode, so it runs like a hybrid vehicle, like a Prius, something like that.
Is there a reduction drive from the motor to the wheel?
Yes. Yeah, well, it's in that transmission area. So you've got a fixed reduction here and a fixed reduction here. I'm reading up about it. They tell me that the two reductions are actually different to try and make some of the power more seamless. It's very, very impressive at slow speed. Most other electric vehicles I've driven, just as you just take off on that first couple of k's an hour, they're a little bit. This is not. It's got an idle function, so it's like an automatic. You just take your foot off the brakes. It creeps, yeah, and it's very, very good. I was a bit sort of, I might use a bit much electricity or whatever. So at the lights, you just put your foot and brake, and that kicks out. So you can reverse trailers, weight, whatever, and it'll just creep. It's limited. So if you've got a high resistance, it'll just sit there on that front. It's been okay. I haven't really tried anything severe, but I have towed fairly large loads. When you initially take off, it looks after the batteries. So that 0 to 5 k's is a little bit steady. I couldn't work out why for a while, then I thought about it. That's because, yes, electric motors have full torque at 0, but to do that, you need a lot of amps.
So, I mean, in terms of, say, climbing a really steep hill with terrain.
Well, normally what would happen then, you would use battery save, so you've got battery, and then your motor would run as well. Yeah, so you'd have generator power plus electric power. I haven't climbed anything steep. No doubt will one day, but not at this stage so far. I've been up a couple of little steep bits, and with the trailer, and it's done it without even the motor firing up. I was back at reversing in the paddock, and I had a bit of trouble going backwards. I realised the trailer brakes were on. I had a big heap of dirt built up behind the wheels, and the motor started up, but it still kept going.
This is good YouTube films on the off-road.
Yeah, they've entered it again in the Thailand 1300k rally this year.
Is it PN magnet motors or?
Yes, permanent magnet motors, yeah, I see.
How big's your fuel tank?
45 litres. It starts at about 36 k's. It comes up refuel, little flashing arrows and everything start. And then if you keep driving, you get up into the 41 area, and then the refuel comes up permanently on the screen in front of you. Before that, you just get a little flashing icon.
So if you start off fully charged and fully fueled, you'll have 600, 650k range.
One would assume so. I've never driven anywhere empty enough to find out.
If I can just say that the range is predictive, I think. It's a bit like the Leaf. It's a decimeter, if you like.
Yeah, definitely.
And if you drive sedately around and you have everything's full, you'll probably have up to 900 on that meter. But if you've been driving the night before, you have the heater on and that sort of stuff, bit of highway driving, you might only come up with sort of half of that, because the electric's only going to give you about 30 or 35 or something like that. Sort of
overseas, they just did an economy test, one of the magazines did, and they got 800, they got the recommended distance, sort of in and out of town, a little bit of highway driving, a little bit of everything, with a bloke driving it to get the maximum economy, and he got 830, and he's still a little bit of fuel left.
So anything about 45 k's, and the rest is all petrol.
Yes, but you do have the advantage of a hybrid vehicle.
Yeah.
So even towing, like when I drive home with the trailer with a load on it, like I've been taking a pellet load of solar panels back, which is about 550 kgs plus the wind resistance of the trailer, 95k now, I pretty much get better than 10 kilometres to the litre, or 10 litres 100, by about 9.5.
Pretty safe to say you're doing 50% electric, 50% petrol, roughly. So
No, I'd be less than that. It just depends on the week. Like this week, weather's been crook. I haven't gone and picked up any cars around town or anything like that. I've been home a couple of times and I haven't used a third of the electricity because I've really only driven 15 k's. Other times I can use it all.
I can say I've got one in Bendigo, and my standard commute's around that 30 to 45 mark, and I only have the vehicle for a short time, but if I just doing that commute, it's all electric.
Yep. Questions?
I'm presuming, I mean, 87 kilowatts is not a huge amount of power to live in, so I presume it's fairly fuel efficient.
Yes, it is detuned as a generator. It only goes to 5,000 RPM max. Occasionally you can get the situation where you have a 2-litre vehicle with a generator. So, like, if you go the back way up through Lilydale on that way, up before the slide you've got a couple of hills. So they chew up some of your horsepower, so you get about halfway up the slide and your reserve battery then's gone. Then you've got a 2-litre with a generator, which still pulls it up quite nicely. Motor's running at 5,000 RPM, you know it's doing it. But it still does it all right. About, what do I have on? I suppose it's 125 towing, and it still did 75k an hour up the hill. But you knew it was, doing it.
up the slide.
Yeah.
With a 1.2.
Yeah, about 1.2. Yeah. But yeah, you're definitely aware of it.
Sure.
Yeah.
You would be most cars.
Well, it'd be the equivalent of putting a lot of cars in second gear and holding at the red light. Yeah. Yes. Any other questions? We can go and have a look in when we're ready.
The only question you might have is, will you buy one again?
Mitsubishi have a concept car out at the minute, which is the ASX version, which is a hatchback version of an Outlander, which Outlander is actually a station wagon with a bit more aerodynamic. I reckon it'll have a 1.1 turbo engine with a slightly larger battery pack, predicted 80k range instead of 50, and obviously a small turbo engine, 700 cc's with the turbocharger, and yeah, significantly more fuel efficient. I'd persuade my wife to buy one if I could.
Diesel or petrol?
Petrol.
Both we want to do keep the petrol in that.
Well, I suppose there's a weight and how much you're going to use it. I think it'd be nice to have a diesel one in the next level up commercial wise. So if you could buy a Triton with a diesel hybrid drivetrain.
Because it was fuel series that were losing the completely disconnected. So
yeah.
It's fire.
Yeah. So I suppose higher purchase price, a bit more complexity, a bit more weight.
Do you have a price for this ASX?
No, I would assume it'd be less than an Outlander.
Right.
Obviously, as the technology improves and battery prices continue to come down, it should be cheaper. How much cheaper? Who knows? Still concept at the minute.
Mm. Oh, thanks very much, Richie. We'll go out and have a look at the Outlander. Now, just before we pop outside, I'll just get here for all those in the interweb land and all of you guys. Renew and Sanctuary magazines. We've got some back issues, so they're by donation. We've got the new issue of Sanctuary, especially for those who are into the general eco technology and housing and architecture and all that sort of stuff. Then Sanctuary magazine is a must-have. So you can buy it here, cheaper you can buy it anywhere else, and the funds go straight to this EV group to keep us in tea and biscuits and and everything else that we need to make this lovely little thing work. So all those in interweb land, come here in person, get your magazine. Yes? You're nodding? Thank you very much. All right, let's go and kick some tyres. Wicked.
Out the front, right, when you hit the road,